The deeply frustrating reality of waking up every single morning with a heavy, unyielding layer of stubborn belly fat that completely refuses to budge, despite eating tiny portions, combined with a thick, exhausting brain fog and joints that feel stiff and rusted, is a daily struggle that breaks the spirit of millions of older adults. But the most tragic part of this exhausting cycle is that it is not a personal failure, a lack of willpower, or an inevitable curse of the natural aging process. For decades, the mainstream fitness and medical industries have relentlessly pushed the exhausting, mathematically flawed idea that losing this visceral weight is simply a matter of counting calories and spending hours on painful cardiovascular machines, completely ignoring the profound underlying biochemical reality that the aging body is largely controlled by invisible hormones, specifically the chronic, silent overproduction of cortisol, which acts as an internal fire alarm that absolutely locks fat around the vital organs as a desperate survival mechanism. When the body is trapped in this constant state of low-grade panic and systemic inflammation, absolutely no amount of starvation or painful exercise will ever force it to release that protective shield of belly fat. Yet there is a profound, scientifically validated, and incredibly ancient solution sitting quietly inside almost every single kitchen pantry in the world right this very minute. A magnificent golden compound that the vast majority of people are completely misusing, thereby entirely wasting its miraculous ability to permanently heal the metabolism. This incredibly powerful natural elixir is authentic extra virgin olive oil. But before dismissing this as just another generic nutrition tip about eating a Mediterranean salad, it is absolutely vital to understand that the modern molecular biology surrounding this specific golden liquid reveals mechanisms for cellular repair, rapid fat oxidation, and severe cortisol reduction that are so genuinely remarkable they rival the most advanced pharmaceutical interventions available today, all without a single dangerous side effect. The massive, tragic gap between how most older adults currently use this oil, treating it merely as a simple cooking medium or a flavor enhancer, and how the deepest longevity science suggests it must actually be utilized, is the exact difference between remaining trapped in an inflamed, exhausted body and completely unlocking a vibrant, lean, and highly energetic future. To truly comprehend the life-changing power of this compound, one must first look at what happens on a microscopic, genetic level the moment high-quality extra virgin olive oil enters the human digestive system, starting with a fascinating biological mechanism known as gene activation, where the specific compounds in the oil literally reach into the nucleus of the human cells and flip a master genetic switch that controls how the body handles stored energy. When this specific genetic receptor is activated by the oil, the entire metabolism undergoes a profound, immediate shift, aggressively turning off the biological program that stores dietary sugar as fat, and forcefully turning on the ancient evolutionary program that burns deep, stored visceral fat for clean, sustained cellular energy, explaining exactly why the traditional populations living around the Mediterranean can consume incredibly high quantities of this specific fat and remain effortlessly lean, sharp, and physically active well into their 90s. Beyond this miraculous genetic switch, this golden liquid performs an astonishing feat of blood sugar regulation that modern medicine is currently trying to replicate with incredibly expensive, highly controversial, and physically uncomfortable weekly weight loss injections. Because consuming the correct type of olive oil naturally stimulates the exact same hormonal pathway in the digestive tract, naturally lowering the dangerous spikes in blood sugar that occur after a meal, dramatically reducing the amount of insulin the pancreas is forced to pump into the blood, and effectively turning off the agonizing, constant physical hunger that ruins so many well-intentioned diets. By naturally engaging this hormonal pathway, the body avoids the exhausting afternoon energy crashes that leave older adults desperately reaching for sugary snacks, allowing the system to return to a deeply efficient, fat-burning state much faster after every single meal. However, the most profound, life-altering benefit for anyone over the age of 60 relates directly to the silent, deadly hormone known as cortisol. Because the deep, hard, visceral fat packed around the stomach contains twice as many cortisol receptors as the softer fat just under the skin, creating a vicious, inescapable loop where high cortisol drives the accumulation of belly fat, and that very same belly fat then produces even more cortisol, trapping the aging body in a rapidly accelerating cycle of metabolic decay. The specific natural fatty acids and the incredibly powerful healing antioxidants known as polyphenols, found entirely within high-quality extra virgin olive oil, possess the documented, scientifically proven ability to physically travel through the body and directly calm the overactive adrenal glands, shifting the entire nervous system away from the stressful, panic state of fight or flight and pulling it deeply into a calm, restorative, and highly peaceful state of recovery. Studies have brilliantly demonstrated that consuming this oil produces a massive, measurable drop in the actual markers of stress and cortisol within mere hours of consumption, proving that this is not a slow, gradual dietary shift, but a rapid, physiologically powerful intervention that immediately begins to disarm the internal fire alarm that is keeping the belly fat locked in place. Furthermore, this golden liquid acts as a profound, natural extinguisher for the chronic, low-grade inflammation that silently destroys the cartilage in the knees, stiffens the hands, and blocks the vital communication between the fat-burning hormones, largely due to a highly unique, miraculous natural compound hidden inside the oil that operates on the exact same biochemical pathway as strong, over-the-counter chemical painkillers like ibuprofen. The magnificent distinction, however, is that while synthetic painkillers slowly degrade the lining of the stomach and put massive, dangerous stress on the liver and kidneys with daily use, this natural, plant-based compound significantly reduces the pain-causing inflammatory enzymes throughout the entire body without requiring any toxic processing by the liver, gently soothing the aching joints and allowing the cells to breathe and repair themselves rapidly with every single dose. Perhaps even more astonishing is the completely underappreciated ability of this specific compound to physically cross the highly protective blood-brain barrier and activate a deeply necessary biological housekeeping process inside the brain cells themselves, a cellular recycling program where the brain actively identifies, dismantles, and sweeps away damaged proteins, dead mitochondria, and the toxic cellular debris that causes the frustrating memory lapses, the heavy mental fog, and the terrifying cognitive decline associated with getting older. By triggering this deep cellular cleanup within the neuronal tissue, the brain is able to generate fresh, clean energy, dramatically improving focus, restoring a sense of youthful mental sharpness, and protecting the delicate neural networks from the slow, degrading fires of neuroinflammation. Yet, despite all of this undeniable, miraculous biological power, millions of older adults are completely failing to experience even a fraction of these benefits because of a massive, widespread, and deeply deceptive quality issue within the modern grocery industry, where experts estimate that a shocking majority of the olive oil sold in clear plastic bottles on supermarket shelves is heavily adulterated, completely oxidized, fraudulently mislabeled, or secretly diluted with the exact same highly inflammatory, toxic industrial seed oils that cause joint pain and weight gain in the first place. Consuming cheap, oxidized, fake olive oil absolutely does not deliver the genetic fat burning or the cortisol lowering miracles. In fact, it does the exact devastating opposite, flooding the aging body with damaged, rancid fats that dramatically elevate liver stress, severely disrupt delicate hormonal signaling, and act as a massive catalyst for even more systemic inflammation, making it the difference between consuming a profoundly therapeutic, life-saving medicine and swallowing a toxic, pro-inflammatory poison disguised with a pretty Mediterranean label. To escape this trap and instantly identify a genuinely healing, therapeutic-grade oil, one must perform a very simple, incredibly telling sensory test right in the kitchen by pouring a single tablespoon of the oil into a small glass and swallowing it entirely straight without any food to mask the sensation. An authentic, highly potent, early harvest extra virgin olive oil absolutely must produce a very distinct, sharp, and slightly peppery burning sensation at the very back of the throat, often causing a gentle, unexpected cough, along with a slightly fuzzy, astringent feeling on the tongue, which is not a sign that the oil has gone bad, but rather the absolute, undeniable biological proof that the miraculous, pain-relieving, brain-healing polyphenols are present, active, and highly concentrated within the liquid. If the oil goes down perfectly smoothly, tasting like absolutely nothing and causing no tickle or warmth in the throat whatsoever, it is a glaring indication that the vital medicinal compounds are completely missing, either because the oil was brutally chemically refined, heavily diluted with cheap soybean oil by a greedy corporation, or made from overripe, nutrient-depleted olives simply to maximize the profit yield. Once a true dark glass bottle of authentic, peppery, high polyphenol oil is secured, it is equally vital to completely abandon the incredibly widespread, wildly inaccurate myth that olive oil is somehow dangerous to use for cooking due to its supposedly low smoke point. This thoroughly debunked misconception has terrified people into avoiding the healthiest fat on earth, despite rigorous modern scientific trials that subjected various cooking oils to hours of extreme, high-heat deep frying and roasting, only to conclusively prove that high-quality extra virgin olive oil is actually the single most stable, highly protective, and safe oil to heat, producing the absolute lowest amount of toxic, cancer-causing byproducts compared to every other oil tested. The profound protection during cooking comes directly from those incredible peppery antioxidants, which act as an incredibly strong biological armor, buffering the fat from the heat and keeping it perfectly safe for human consumption, completely destroying the deeply flawed advice that pushes older adults to cook with dangerous, highly unstable, and severely inflammatory alternatives like canola, grapeseed, or sunflower oil. With the authentic, healing oil finally in hand and the cooking myths completely shattered, the ultimate secret to unlocking its miraculous ability to melt visceral fat and silence the cortisol alarm lies in entirely correcting the four major mistakes almost everyone makes: buying the fake oil, being afraid to cook with it, consuming it at the wrong times, and pairing it with the wrong foods, and replacing those errors with a highly specific, scientifically precise daily protocol designed to maximize the compounding hormonal effects. This magnificent, deeply healing daily ritual begins first thing in the quiet hours of the morning, in a completely fasted state before a single bite of breakfast is consumed, precisely when the body's natural cortisol levels are hitting their absolute highest, most stressful peak of the day. By taking a small, dedicated shot glass containing 1 to 2 tablespoons of the authentic, high-quality extra virgin olive oil, mixed with just a tiny splash of fresh, organic lemon juice or raw apple cider vinegar, on an entirely empty stomach, the body receives a massive, immediate biochemical signal that directly blunts the morning stress surge, physically stopping the cortisol spike in its tracks, stimulating the liver to release a healthy flow of detoxifying bile, and reaching straight into the genes to officially turn on the fat oxidation process for the entire day. Crucially, because this pure fat contains absolutely zero carbohydrates and zero protein, it completely bypasses the insulin response, meaning it does not break the healing state of the overnight fast, allowing the body to continue deeply repairing its cells while simultaneously bathing the brain in clean, calming energy. Within just 20 short minutes of this simple morning ritual, the heavy, confusing mental fog begins to beautifully lift, replaced by a profound, sustained sense of calm, focused alertness, and a massive, highly noticeable reduction in the frantic, stressful morning appetite, proving undeniably that the soothing compounds have successfully crossed into the brain and the fat-burning engines have been successfully ignited. As the day progresses into the midday meal, the protocol relies on the magnificent synergistic power of natural food combining, pouring a generous 2 tablespoons of the golden oil over a beautiful plate of highly colorful, polyphenol-rich vegetables like dark leafy arugula, vibrant purple cabbage, or lightly steamed broccoli, paired with a clean, high-quality protein. When the healing compounds in the olive oil meet the specific antioxidants in these deep-colored vegetables, especially when enhanced with ancient healing herbs like rosemary or oregano, they undergo a profound chemical interaction that dramatically amplifies their combined anti-inflammatory power, creating a soothing, insulin-sensitizing shield inside the digestive tract that a single food could never possibly replicate on its own. For those who are deeply struggling with severe, stubborn insulin resistance, or a highly dangerous accumulation of hard, visceral belly fat, implementing an optional but incredibly powerful step of taking just 1 single tablespoon of the oil, precisely 15 minutes before the largest, heaviest dinner of the day, can produce absolute miracles for the blood sugar, physically coating the stomach lining, significantly slowing the rate at which the food breaks down into sugar, and measurably slashing the dangerous fat-storing insulin spikes that usually follow a heavy evening meal. Finally, for the millions of older adults who suffer through agonizing nights of terribly disrupted sleep, finding themselves wide awake, staring at the ceiling at 3 in the morning, feeling incredibly exhausted, yet strangely wired and alert, a tiny, soothing dose of this oil right before stepping into bed can be a profound, life-changing revelation. This pre-sleep ritual works by beautifully enhancing the transport of specific calming amino acids directly across the blood-brain barrier, providing the exact biological building blocks the brain desperately needs to synthesize serotonin and ultimately produce deep, natural melatonin, which is not just a simple sleep hormone, but rather the most potent, powerful internal antioxidant the human body possesses, responsible for repairing the mitochondria and reversing the damage of biological aging while the body rests in complete, uninterrupted peace. The timeline for experiencing these miraculous, life-giving changes is not measured in agonizing months or years of strict, punishing dietary restriction, but rather in a matter of days. Because when the body is finally given the exact, high-quality, uncorrupted fuel it evolved to run on, the biological response is beautifully swift and deeply noticeable. Within the very first day of consistently following this exact timing and protocol, the uncomfortable heavy bloating in the stomach begins to completely vanish. The wild, unpredictable swings in daily energy completely stabilize into a smooth, steady current. The mind feels remarkably sharp, and the digestive system returns to a state of perfect effortless regularity. Within the first full week of this simple, profound intervention, clothes begin to fit completely differently as the tape measure reveals a genuine, measurable reduction in the circumference of the waist. The skin begins to take on a healthy, hydrated, and youthful glow, reflecting the massive drop in systemic internal inflammation. The crushing afternoon energy crashes become a distant memory due to the newly balanced insulin levels, and the architecture of the nightly sleep cycle is beautifully restored, allowing for deep, dreaming, and highly restorative rest. This is absolutely not a passing health trend, a complicated new diet to memorize, or an expensive synthetic supplement created in a laboratory. It is simply a profound return to the most highly studied, deeply revered, and scientifically validated dietary compound in the entire history of longevity research. A magnificent golden gift from nature that is present in the daily lives of every single human population that has ever demonstrated exceptional disease-free health spans, yet is being used correctly by almost absolutely no one in the modern, fast-paced Western world. The profound, undeniable biological evidence is completely clear. The exact molecular pathways for melting fat and killing the stress hormones have been brilliantly mapped out by modern science, and the incredibly simple, low-cost intervention is sitting right there, waiting in the dark glass bottle. The only remaining question is the deeply personal choice to finally stop punishing the aging body with starvation and exhaustion, to bravely walk into the kitchen to perform the simple, peppery taste test on the oil currently sitting in the pantry, and to step boldly into a beautiful, vibrant, and incredibly energetic new chapter of life, where true health is never a brutal battle, but a peaceful, magnificent, and highly joyous daily ritual. If uncovering these profoundly hidden, life-saving biological truths and learning exactly how to naturally, gently, and powerfully heal the body from the inside out brings a wonderful sense of hope, immense relief, and true empowerment to the beautiful journey of aging gracefully, making the choice to subscribe to this channel will ensure that these vital secrets, honest health conversations, and powerful natural remedies continue to light the way toward a significantly lighter, deeply rested, and far more vibrant life.